Hello. It is time. It is time to breathe again on the latest Breath of Fresh Air webcast. So I am laughing because my man Patrick Brackett showing up in the Georgia jersey in the clutch, put his wallpaper on right at the gun.
So, right at the gun. Right. National champions, baby.
Yeah. Of a couple years ago. No, I'm playing.
Yeah, and this year.
Well, okay. Or is that a precursor to how you're feeling about the year coming up?
We'll see.
Okay. So, as y'all can tell, we are wearing our college football jerseys of our favorite team. As you know, Patrick is Georgia, I'm for Texas, and we are both in the SEC now. Patrick, I am so excited to be in the SEC, and I appreciate the welcome. I got the official welcome from my uncles when I went down to Mississippi, but you were like third on the list, so I appreciate it. And this is our college football preview show. We are really, really pumped to get into these conferences and pick who's going to win the conferences and talk about this new college football playoff format. 12 teams in it now, and the way they have it set up, man, we'll get into it with more detail, but I personally like this setup. I like how they're doing this. But with that, without further ado, let's jump right into the conferences. And Patrick, unfortunately, which hasn't been the case for a lot of the other years, we got to start with the Big Ten this year because the defending.
We let them have one
because the defending champ in the form of the Michigan Wolverines play in the Big Ten, obviously. So let's start there and look at how we feel this is going to break down. As we know, you have 4 new teams in the Big Ten coming over from the now, well, I guess they tried to keep the Pac-12 alive, but they only got 2 teams in Oregon State and Washington State. But you have Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA coming over to the Big Ten Conference. And now it is the 10-team conference named with 18 teams in it. So there's still an obvious counting problem over there, but that's another story for another day. It makes for some interesting games. It makes for some interesting travel. I mean, so you're going to have Oregon and Ohio State play each other. You're going to have Michigan traveling out to Seattle to play Washington. And you're going to have a couple of cross matchups involving UCLA and USC. The conference does look deep. So, I mean, in terms of the teams that could potentially make some noise because of team format that you have in the college football playoff, but I still think it will be a little bit more of the same. So you go first. Who do you have winning this conference?
Well, I mean, look, all they did was drafted a bunch of Pac-12 teams. That's all they did, and at that point, you know, I mean, I could start off with a couple of I see Oregon making some noise, right? I don't think they're going to win the Big 12 or Big 10. I'm sorry, they're not going to win the Big 10 or Big 20 or Big whatever they want to eventually call themselves.
Big 18, Patrick.
The Big 18. But I mean, I could see Washington and Oregon making some noise in this particular conference. But past that, I mean, like you said, I think it's going to be a lot of the same. I mean, Ohio State. I have Ohio State winning this conference pretty handily. I mean, I don't see any team that really can match them on the field, offense, defense, or special teams. So I got Ohio State. Much as that kills me, makes me mad that I have to say that. And I know Michigan is like gonna, you know, I think Michigan is gonna make a statement But I think that Ohio State starts taking back over this conference again after this year.
I agree. So yeah, I think Ryan Day is figuring out he needs to get back more to physical ball.
Yeah.
Trying to mix in more of the running. That I mean, Ohio State, that with CJ Stroud there especially, they pretty much went exclusively pass, and they would sprinkle the run in. And even if they did start to run the ball, their running back would get hurt. Now, most of the time it was what's his name, Travion Henderson, and he would just get hurt, and then they would go back to throwing the ball 45, 50 times.
Yep.
The transfer quarterback that is coming in from Kansas State, Will Howard, is going to be starting for Ohio State. Now, for those of y'all who have not seen Will Howard play during his days in Kansas State, this is a bruising quarterback. This dude is 6'3", 6'4", every bit of 230, 240 pounds. Hard to bring down. Of course, with
he likes to run.
Yes, and he likes to run, exactly. And with us being in the Big 12, seeing him every year, it wasn't fun seeing him run over some of our DBs. But he's the quarterback in Ohio State now, and I think that's going to bring that extra physical presence Ohio State needs to assert themselves in the Big Ten. Michigan, defending champs, they will be heard from. They've lost so much talent to the NFL.
And unfortunately, some of that talent was in the coaching staff. And they lost almost everybody in the coaching staff. So, Michigan is going to be in a rebuild year. And, like I said, I think Oregon and Washington is going to make some noise. UCLA might make, a little bit of noise in there too. But I really think that your top four teams is going to be Michigan, Ohio State. I know a lot of people will probably throw Penn State in there and just be like, hey, I think they can do something. But, at this rate, I don't know what their schedule is, but I can pop off 5 teams that's probably going to beat them. You know what I mean? So
they can't beat Michigan or Ohio State anyway, so it really doesn't.
There's 2 of the losses. Oregon could be a 3rd. Washington will be a 4th. And I hate to say this too. Oh God, this is going to kill me right here. USC.
I think they'll handle USC.
Don't get me wrong. I think they'll handle them, but you know how the committee likes to roll the dice and start USC off with 4 bye weeks, and they go into the game fresh when everybody else is injured.
USC's just, they're too soft, man. They're LA soft. I'm sorry for the people who are watching California, but yeah, they're too pretty out there. They're too Hollywood. They ain't trying to get.
Hey, if you go out there and get beat by Vanderbilt,
yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I know Vanderbilt's they're a lacrosse baseball school. I get it, but man, I give Vanderbilt this. Anytime they're out of conference, they handle business. Handle business in conference. So.
With Oregon, so I think Oregon I think they're ready. And when I say ready, they can be in the Big Ten championship game, playing either Ohio State or Michigan. I think Dan Lanning has them geared toward a more physical style of ball. Mm-hmm. He definitely has the speed there. He's recruiting for the speed. And I think Oregon has a team where I wouldn't be surprised if they did win the Big Ten. Now, I'm gonna pick Ohio State to do it because I just think they're gonna be more physical at the end. Whether they do end up playing Oregon or Michigan, Maybe Penn State. I doubt it, but I think Ohio State does have too many horses there, and the addition of Will Howard bringing more of a physical presence at that quarterback position, I think that puts them over the top. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's they're just going to be too strong. I mean, they'll win their conference. I think they win their conference pretty handily. I would not be surprised if they're undefeated.
Now, would I like to see Michigan or Oregon or perhaps Penn State win over Ohio State? Absolutely, I would.
You know who I would like to see actually win? Penn State.
Yeah.
I would love to see Penn State win. This is a brand new conference, quote unquote, with the addition of like 400 teams into their conference. But to me, I think this would make Penn State, what's the word I'm looking for? Known. Instead of being known as the team that gets beat,
the
team as they win. You know what I mean?
The yeah buts.
The yeah buts, yeah. we win everybody but Ohio State. Yeah, we'll go in, but we got Michigan this week. I would love to see Penn State win, but I'd also love to see Oregon win. Or maybe even Washington finish in what they did last year. That would be kind of nice. But as you said, man, Ohio State is just too strong at all positions. They're better at every position, and Ryan Day is going to have them ready week 1, ready to go. I don't see anybody knocking them off. So, it is, and I do know a lot of people are like, well, normally y'all ride with the team who won the conference last year. Yeah, but Michigan ain't got it. Not this year.
Nah, yeah, I just think they've lost too much talent from their national championship team, including coaches. So, or the head coach. So, Ohio State. We got them both got them winning the Big Ten. With that, let's move on to the SEC. And
we're not even going to save them for last.
No, I won't save them for last. We'll get. I would have went to the Pac-12 since Washington was in the Pac-12, but they got 2 teams if they're even a conference anymore. So we'll just.
I don't even think they're a conference anymore, dude.
So we'll head over to the SEC, and just like the Big Ten, we got some new teams in the SEC. 2 more teams in the form of us.
The Pac-12 has Oregon State and Washington State.
Yes, there it is. So they're the Pac-2. What's up with this?
They're the Pac-12, not 10. Not bad.
We seriously.
Boy,
math.
Oregon and Washington holding on to the bitter end.
They are.
Conference up there in the corner all by themselves.
Yeah. So in the SEC, we have the additions of us, Texas, and Texas North, also known as Oklahoma. Now you got 16 teams in the SEC, and it's going to make for some interesting matchups because it is not not division related. It's more whatever is put onto the schedule, and the top 2 teams will play in the SEC championship game in Atlanta. Oh, but forgot to give this to the Big Ten too. So the Big Ten, of course, their championship game is in Indianapolis. So with the SEC, interesting times, a lot of interesting matchups because with the SEC, I would say this more so than the other conferences, and I'm sure you would agree with this, Patrick. There is tradition within the rivalries. So, like y'all will always play Florida. Y'all will always play Auburn. Y'all will always play. Who am I missing here? I know Florida and
We'll always play Florida, and we'll always play Auburn, and we'll always play Tennessee.
All right, so there you go. So for us, we're coming in here, and you're bringing back all those old school Southwest Conference matchups.
And they're doing it year one, too, bro.
Right at the beginning, yes.
We
go to Fayetteville to play Arkansas, and we will go to College Station and rekindle that rivalry with Texas A&M. And shoot, week 2 we go up to Ann Arbor and play Michigan. So we're getting right to it as well. Well, shoot, Patrick, y'all play Clemson week 1. So,
hey, you know what I say? I know we're fixing to talk about the ACC here in just a minute, but man, kudos to Georgia Tech and Florida State for going right into conference play. Man, I loved it. But like I always tell you, like if you're not going to play in conference, if you're not going to play conference game 1, that's fine. Go ranked.
Yeah, just test yourself somewhere before you get into conference play. But man, interesting times in the SEC. Definitely looking forward to these games. Who do you have winning the conference? Now, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but yeah, what do you got?
Everybody knows the answer. What I'm going to say. Everybody knows. I got Georgia winning the conference. I think the last year after getting beat by Alabama, man, that I think Georgia's coming in with a chip on their shoulder, and they're like, give us Clemson week 1. We don't care. It ain't gonna matter because we're about to dominate the entire conference. Now I'm not going to say that we're going to stroll into every game. Look, there's a lot of games that is going to be tough. We got to go to Alabama. That's going to be tough. Tennessee, we got to play Tennessee. We got to play Florida. You know, there's a lot of tough games that we have. And if Georgia Tech is playing anything like this, right, that's another team that we always play, Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
If Georgia Tech is always going to play, if they're going to play like they played against Florida State, man, that just made our season even stronger, even harder. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not going to sit and say we got the hardest. I do kind of feel Florida has the hardest schedule.
Florida has the number 1 toughest schedule.
But that's, I mean, I can't see us being far from top 10. I can't. I mean, we got a pretty tough schedule.
Well, Florida's schedules.
I think they have like 6 back-to-back rain games. Like, I don't know how they got matched up with that one, but man, I was looking at that and I was like, tough time being a Florida fan.
Yeah, it is. Man, so all right. I think we can come in and win the SEC. I really do. But I'm going to take Georgia to win. Now, here's what I got, though. So check this out. Y'all come to us. I think we will win that game. I think we will beat y'all when y'all come down to Austin October 19th. But I can see y'all getting us in a rematch in the SEC championship game. And I think this could be the case in the Big Ten, too. Do not be surprised, Patrick, if you see 3 matchups with the same teams. Don't be surprised.
I can tell you right now, we're undefeated.
Undefeated. But I think you can see a scenario where one of these teams, and this could happen in the Big Ten as well. You can see a scenario where, like with us, so I think we play y'all in the regular season. I can see us meeting again in the SEC championship game, and then we meet somewhere in the college football playoff. Not necessarily knowing where, not saying that it would be the national championship game, but I think we would see each other again somewhere. So just throwing that out there.
It's possible.
It's not out of the equation. This could literally happen in some way.
It could happen year 1.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that could happen. Having 12 teams is there's so many scenarios that run through my head with 12 teams. It's going to be a lot of fun just watching it, you know. let alone these kids that get to play in it. You know what I mean? But just watching it, it's going to be crazy.
What do you expect from Alabama and Ole Miss? So, of course, Alabama, Nick Saban's gone. Caleb DeBoer is in from Washington. And Ole Miss is the Penn State of the SEC. They're yeah, but team. What do you expect from those two?
Well, with Kalen coming in, that long time thing that I always say, that Nick Saban effect. You know what I mean? Look, Nick Saban didn't go far. He's athletic director. He didn't go far from Alabama. He didn't. But the difference is that he's not going to be on that sideline telling plays. He's not going to be on that sideline doing the things that he normally does. That keeps Alabama in the game, as well as getting the heads of the coaches. Because, look, Nick Saban has this way of getting people to play his type of football. Right? Like last year. Right. How many times does Lane Kiffin have to go for a 4th down on his own 12 and screw that up and give Alabama awesome field advantage, field position? And I mean, you don't need to do that to Alabama. You don't need to. You cannot give them the upper hand on any game, right? But with Nick Saban on that sideline, that gets into Lane Kiffin's head, and he's like, I gotta match him blow for blow, and I get to punch first. I gotta punch him hard, right? And then if he doesn't make that land, he doesn't hit him hard, and then all of a sudden, now Nick Saban gets to punch and he hits. Now you're playing at that game where it's like, crap. Now I gotta keep up, right? Then you got Kirby Smart. Same scenario, right? But Kirby Smart tends to, instead, I guess it's not the same scenario. I guess it's a little different, because this is what Kirby Smart does, is he'll move it down the field. And then they're on the 35, 40-yard line, which is just out of reach. And they're on 4th and 1. This is when you go for it. You got to go for it. You got to keep the ball moving. You got to keep your momentum, right? He'll punt. And I'm like, Lane on one hand is going for 4th and 50 on his own 12, and Kirby Smart is punting with a 4th and 1 on Alabama's 12. And I'm like, you don't do that. Nick Saban has this way of just making them play the way he wants them to play. He just does. But now that Nick Saban's not on that side, I'm curious of how it's really going to go for him, because Kalen is more of a offensive minded. Now I tell you, man, Alabama's going to score. They are going to score. I mean, it's going to be some of those games where it's like Alabama 42, somebody else 35. I mean, I just don't think they got the defense to handle it, And so if Alabama's not scoring, I honestly feel like if Alabama's not scoring 35 plus points in a game, they ain't winning. And if they can get over that, which they're going to get a lot of points, right? But the 3 tests that they're going to run into is, 4. They got Texas this year, right? No. Okay, so they got 3 tests, 3 really big tests, and 4 if you count Auburn. But they got Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, and Auburn. There's your 4 tests, and they score on that, because it doesn't matter who Auburn is. And when I say it doesn't matter who Auburn is, they don't even have to have an identity going into that Iron Bowl.
It's a tough game.
Yeah. It's a tough game. I don't care who it is. So even if Auburn doesn't have an identity, Alabama still got to score 35 or they ain't win that game. You know what I mean? So I think Alabama is in this very unique situation where they could win a lot of games because their offense is so high powered, but their defense is lacking. I mean, it does not look like a typical Alabama defense. So I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win 9 games. I think they'll go 9-3, possibly 10-2. Depends on how Tennessee's offense clicks. I think it will, but those are going to be 3 tough games for them. And like I said, counting Auburn, that's going to be 4 tough games. That's really going to test how Alabama is really going to play on an offensive and defensive standpoint. And then Ole Miss, I got them right there in that bunch, right there at 9-3, 10-2, possibly 8-4. Because I just don't know what Lane Kiffin is going to be doing with his defense. Another high-powered offense. You know, they got to score a lot of points to win their game because the defense is going to let a lot of points score too. So I could see that Auburn or that Ole Miss team really kind of go into 8-4, 9-3 kind of thing, and then Alabama being right at like 9-3, 10-2.
Yeah, I agree. Ole Miss, they just have to show me they can break through. Yeah, we keep on hearing about how this is the year, this is the time that Lane Kiffin is going to take that next step. Ole Miss is ready to compete, and then they play Alabama or Georgia, and they get smashed. Yep. So it's time. Just you make your move.
Yep, it's time to make your move. Just like Penn State, make your move. Now it's time. I mean, you got 12 teams that's going in. Be one of them. Literally, just be one of them and let it go where it goes.
Yeah, give yourself a chance.
Yep.
And Alabama, I'm with you. I think they will have a good offense. The defense, I can see the defense growing as the season goes along.
I just don't think you grow fast enough.
Yeah, early it could be a little rough, and it could be rough in the secondary. But I think Alabama, they can get pressure. I think that they'll have a good front seven, but if they can't get there with that front seven, it might be a long day in the secondary.
It'll be a long game for them.
So yeah. But to sum it up, yes, we both have Georgia winning the SEC. I think we can win it, and I see a scenario where we can beat y'all in the regular season game, but y'all get revenge.
Well, I mean, if you want to look at it from top to bottom, I mean, you really got a lot of teams in there that could really represent the SEC. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, possibly Missouri, depending on which Missouri team wants to show up. Tennessee.
I just think Brian Kelly, and he's going to throw people under the bus, and then he's going to lose the team for 2 games, and then they're going to.
That could happen. But as it stands right now, like
LSU has talent. They always have a talent.
They always have talent. Problem is, can they coach them? And it's just like Texas A&M. Same thing with Texas A&M. They always got. I mean, dude. Lead the whole league in recruiting, yet can't win 6 games. How do you get all those 5 stars and you still can't win? I mean, it's insane.
And they got a new coach in there too, so we'll see what they do.
But to finish that off, I mean, you got Tennessee and you got Texas. I mean, there's a lot of teams that can represent the SEC. There's a lot, far more in the SEC than in any other conference.
Yes, sir. Well, man, with that, let's head on over to the Big 12. So, what we have in the Big 12 is a lot of solid teams. Of course, the name value with Texas and Oklahoma has obviously gone over to the SEC, but you have a conference now with the addition of Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado coming over from the Pac-12. Playing teams like OK State, Kansas State, Iowa State, TCU still in the conference. West Virginia is scrappy. It makes for
UCF in there.
Yeah, Central Florida, Cincinnati, Houston. I mean, there's a lot of just teams that can scrap, and it makes for a very competitive conference. I mean, I was looking through it myself, and I could go 5-6 teams winning that conference, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. What say you in this conference?
Dude, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. And like Houston is gonna probably be really good. TCU is probably, I mean, like with the exit of Texas and Oklahoma, you got a lot of teams now that can represent K-State, Oklahoma State, TCU. Who else do we got?
Iowa State's always
Iowa State's going to be scrappy. But, I mean, with all that said, I'm going to go Oklahoma State. Dude, I think Oklahoma State is going to be the one that that represents the Big 12. Or, who we at? Big 12? Yeah, Big 12. I got Oklahoma.
Big 12 with 16 teams. Yep.
16 teams because nobody knows how to count anymore. I mean, this is like fundamental math. Yeah, we still can't count. That's fine. That's fine. Don't matter because at the end of the season, you only got to count one, and it's gonna be Oklahoma State.
You're right, and I tend to think we're reading each other's picks or something. I tend to lean toward OK State too. Utah was right there. I almost picked Utah. Kansas State was right there too. Watch Arizona. Now, Arizona finished strong last year. They have a lot of people returning, so they can they can mix some things up. I know the hype machine is going to be with Colorado. I don't see them doing much.
Not against their conference. Maybe if the Pac-12 was still around, they'd probably make a little bit more noise. But I mean, I haven't looked at Colorado's schedule, but I can tell you right now, maybe 4 wins.
Does that environment seem a little toxic to you?
I watched your short, by the way, and you made some very interesting points about it being toxic. But here's the thing. Growing up on Deion Sanders, watching him, look, I love that dude. I do. But no matter where he goes, it's toxic. It really is. I mean, you know, even when he was playing for the Falcons and the Braves all at the same time, I mean, look, did he break any contract rules? No, not necessarily. But why put yourself in that situation? And it's because he wanted to be prime time, you know. And to me, with this being in Colorado, all he did was put a cowboy hat on prime time. That's it. And if you're all about, look, and you know me, dude, I'm like very conceited. I am a very conceited person. But unfortunately, I have calmed down, maybe about this much. But if you're gonna be a head coach and no players are even, it's like, oh man, Arizona State's coming in to play prime time. No, they're not. They're playing against the other people on the field. He just happens to be coaching them. You know what I'm saying? So when ESPN breaks it down, it's like, oh, Texas Tech versus prime time. That to me is the start of a toxic environment. And I mean, his son's no different. His son's gonna be the same way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you know what? This is the thing. And I gotta be completely transparent about this. I will say this. As much as it is in a toxic environment, I love the cockiness about it though. I do. I really think that is a mix. If Deion can get a hold of the toxicity that's in that system and really boost up the confidence and the cockiness of this team, you're going to see a different Colorado. And that's what I'm hoping happens. Because as much as I like Deion, as much as I like how he carries himself in a lot of ways, unfortunately, the way he carries himself going into that environment does make it toxic. And it's hard for him to distinguish between who Deion Sanders and who primetime is. You know what I mean? Because Deion Sanders played for the Braves, but primetime played for the Falcons. And he wants to be Deion Sanders in front of the camera, but he wants to be primetime on the field. Can't do both. You can't do both. So I do feel that it is a little toxic. I don't think it's uncontrollable at this point. But if he continues in the road that he's going, it's not going to take long. If he keeps going this way, let's say they win 4 games. Colorado will be ecstatic with winning 4 games because it's a step up from what they did last year. But let's say the next year they win 4 or less. Now they're going to start questioning, is this a toxic environment? That's when the questions come out. And to me, that's a little too late. You gotta nip it in the now. Go ahead and nip it now. Make yourself a position to eliminate the toxicity and build the confidence. But you got to do it this year.
Yeah, starts this year. You've been there for 2 years. Well, this will be your second year going in. You've had a chance to get your culture into the school now. So let's see if this starts to build. But I'm with you. Just think going into the Big 12, it's going to be pretty rugged. And I see if Colorado gets 6 or 7 wins, that's a great season to me. I mean, I think they're going to get kind of beaten up.
Yeah, if they win 6 games, dude, that to me, I do have to question at that point. Like, is he starting to control the toxicity? Is he starting to put the boys in front of the microphone that needs to be in front of the microphone instead of being in front of it with them? You know what I mean? He needs to know to step back. And that's the one thing that you have to understand that Nick Saban did, Stark does, Kirby Smart does. They all are like, I'll take my time in front of the microphone, but he's the one that won the game, so I'm out. And then they're gone. And they let the quarterback or they let the running back or whoever is the player of the game that week, they let them have the microphone and they get out. Let them have their time. Can Prime Time bite his tongue and get out from behind the microphone? That's the question. And that's a tough one for him because he does not he wants to be in front of the camera.
Yeah, he hasn't met a microphone that he's ran away from.
No.
Yeah.
He will not run away from a microphone, just like Eminem will not run away from any beef on the mic. It's just who they are. And you respect it. I respect it. I like that part about him, but Dion will have to do that so that he can control that toxicity.
Well, all right. Well, so we're good with OK State winning the Big 12?
Yep.
All right. Well, so we'll see if the agreeing continues when we head on over to the ACC. Now, you mentioned earlier the game in week 0 between Florida State and Georgia Tech. For those who caught it, great game.
Yeah.
You got a very good game there. For those who missed it, you missed a great game.
Yeah, you did.
Went down to
There's no other way to put that, right?
Went down to the wire. Georgia Tech won on a last-second field goal, and they were the better team on this day. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They had a 14-play drive for a touchdown in the first half. The last 6.5 minutes of the game, Georgia Tech choked out that game. They just choked it out. They ran the ball. Florida State could not stop it. And in a lot of those occasions, it was those back-breaking quarterback runs by Haynes King.
Yeah.
And so Georgia Tech.
Well, he either shows up or he doesn't, does he?
Yeah. On top of controlling the line of scrimmage, those clutch plays they were able to make, whether it was Haynes King making the runs or the throws, they were just able. They played a pretty clean game, and Florida State just could not quite match the physicality Georgia Tech was playing. Props to the rambling wreck, as they call it there in Georgia Tech. Very good win for them. And like you had said about Florida's schedule, I think Georgia Tech's schedule was 4th or 5th on this list. So they have a tough schedule coming up as well. But look, they're going to make some teams earn it.
Yeah.
So,
if they're playing like this, yeah,
they can be a factor for sure. But man, I mean, the ACC is another conference. I think it's going to be up in the air. You have Stanford, California, and those two are coming from the what's remaining of the Pac-12, and they're also getting SMU coming in from. God, what was SMU? Either they were the American Athletic Conference or Conference USA, one or the other.
One of the two.
But they're coming into the ACC.
They matter now. They're in the ACC.
Yeah, there you go.
and just so everybody knows, the ACC is now the ACCC. All conference coastal. They just coast to coast.
Can we
all
call them
coast to coast conference? That's what it is.
We're gonna call them the APCC, the Atlantic Pacific Coastal Conference. Let's get it. But Patrick, who wins the Atlantic Pacific Coastal Conference? No, you're not doing that.
No, I'm not. No. I just wanted the Miami fans out there to go, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Patrick. No, y'all ain't winning. Sorry. No.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a lot of teams in there. You got Clemson, Florida State, Georgia Tech plays the way they're going to play like that. Georgia Tech. I don't think the Tar Heels are going to make that big of a push, not this year. But I mean, I think Stanford's going to make it a little bit interesting. But to be honest,
maybe.
What's that?
NC State,
that's another one. But I think if I'm going to pick one, and this is a tough decision because I know they lost, but I think I'm going to go Florida State. And I'm really not a huge fan of DJ Ugalulula, or however you say his name.
He's so inconsistent, man.
He's so inconsistent.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is, like, I just don't know if Clemson is going to be that good of a team. I mean, I know that they're ranked 14th right now, but I just don't know about Clemson. I mean, like they lost a lot last year, and they got some really good players returning, but they didn't recruit well either. So I'm going to go Florida State, and the one reason why I'm going to go Florida State is because, to me, their coaching staff is probably one of the best in the ACC.
I think Dabo Swinney is really close to losing the team. I do feel his welcome is being worn out now, and he's not really trying to adapt to what you have now with NIL and the transfer portal. Like you said, there's still talent there in Clemson. They still have a high recruiting class, but with him is the message. Whatever that message was when he was winning national championships, they got 2 there back from 2016 and 2018. But is that message not getting through anymore? The players don't seem to be reacting the same, and if it gets to a point where it gets a little bit tough, you're wondering if they're just gonna let go of the rope now with Clemson. Yeah. So yeah, I am. It's funny, but I am with you. I do think Florida State will still find a way to win the ACC as well. The coaching staff with Mike Norvell, I think they will adjust, and I think that they'll get tougher up front as the season goes along. I think Georgia Tech came in. I don't know if Florida State was ready to go 60 minutes. Now, look, the game was close, and I know Georgia Tech won on a last-second field goal. But what I think the mentality Florida State had going into that game was, if we score quick, which they did, Florida State scored real quick in that game,
and then threw up a 2-point conversion and went 8-0.
Exactly. So I think they felt if Florida State if they were able to score quick, Georgia Tech was not going to respond. And when Georgia Tech did respond and then started choking the game out, I think it knocked Florida State back on their heels a little bit. And so I think now that you got hit in the face, you got punched in the mouth.
Oh, and it was a haymaker too. How do you, I mean, like, you lost some ground and now you got to make it up. You got punched. And I'm not talking just like one time. It was a wallop right in the mouth.
I mean, Georgia Tech controlled the game, man. I mean, this was
That's the first 6 minutes.
Yeah.
The first 6 minutes of the game, Georgia Tech controlled the rest of that game.
Yeah, their offensive line just took over that game. And on defense, they were getting after DJ Uiagalelei. And if
you want to, I just keep calling him ukulele. I'm like,
I mean, there might be like 8 syllables in that name. I don't know. But they were coming after him too. Georgia Tech had a good defensive game plan where they were mixing up the coverages. They were mixing up the blitzes as well. And it took a little bit for Florida State to understand what was going on with that defense. I mean, after that first drive, they struggled to hold the ball with more consistent drives, while Georgia Tech was putting together 14 play drives. Yeah. So, but with that said, yes, I think Florida State will respond. I don't really see another team giving them much of a game in the ACC. Yeah, Clemson could. NC State could. I don't think Miami will, but I mean, yeah, I think if Florida State just cleans up and gets tougher on the defensive line, I still think they have the best overall team in that conference. So I'm with you. I think Florida State will win that conference.
Yep.
Well, what about your group of 5 teams? So, and we'll get more into the college football playoff format here in a few minutes, but there will be, I guess, a group of 5 team does get in there. So who do you see as that group of 5 team? Could it be Liberty? Could it be Boise State? Memphis? Who are we looking at?
Well, so I mean that's not even real football anymore. There is some really good teams.
Could it be Tulane?
I was looking at Liberty. I looked at them, and then I saw Tulane, but I mean, I honestly really haven't done a lot of research past the 4. I've been trying to get in there to do some, but I mean, how good is San Jose? UNLV,
Fresno State.
You know, I mean, Fresno State's always been my underdog team. I always like them. But I mean, are we? Is the Pac-12 still counted? Is they going to be counted as? What are they counted as now?
I wouldn't count them as no power conference.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe Oregon State or Washington State can sneak in there.
You know what? I to be honest with you, I can look at 2 teams, and this is really the only 2 teams that I really look at. I'm gonna look at Coastal Carolina. I think that they could make a run for it. I don't see a lot of the other teams really like putting a stop on them. And I really don't know what Notre Dame's doing. I mean, what is Notre Dame doing? Are they still in their own? They're still in their.
Notre Dame is playing a lot of ACC games, but still keeping their NBC contract. That's what Notre Dame is doing.
So, I mean, honestly, I don't even know if we can even count them. You can't really count them in anything, right?
No, they're independent.
So, I'm gonna go Liberty and Coastal Carolina, dude. I would say those are the two teams that I would probably watch the most, because Coastal Carolina, man, and I guess Toledo was in there too last year, but I don't know what Toledo did over the offseason.
You said Toledo, man. You going with some as it was called, Maction?
Wait, hold on. What was the other team that I was? Was it Toledo that?
I know you was big on Tulane.
Tulane, that's the one. Not Toledo. Tulane.
Okay.
So Tulane, Coastal Carolina, and Liberty. Those would probably be the three that I watched the most out of the rest of the conferences, because they made some really good noise last year. And I mean, even I picked Tulane to win their bowl game last year, and they did their thing. So I would say I'll probably watch those three and see. I can see one of those three, and if I'm really leaning towards, I'll probably lean towards Tulane to have a bid in the tournament.
Yeah, I think Liberty and Memphis. I think Memphis could be pretty solid. I know there's some people who like Boise State as well. Boise State is just one of those teams that you never know when that magic could catch on with Boise State.
Magic.
Yeah. I think Memphis can have a team that's pretty solid all the way around. And I mean, they're going to score some points. If they can get a little bit of defense, I can see them winning the AAC and getting that spot for the group of five. Liberty, I think, is pretty tight. Tulane has been the most solid one over the last few years. I wonder if they're going to get the quarterback play they've been getting. If they do, Tulane's very dangerous too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess I'll probably lean toward Memphis. I think Memphis.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't look at Memphis, but I really haven't looked at a lot of of these conferences. The only ones I really, like I said, the only ones I really kind of dabbled in was those three, and they look pretty good. I mean, the schedule looks pretty solid for them. So I was like, why not Tulane? Let's see.
Well, Patrick, before we head on out, let's look at this college football playoff format right quick. So, as mentioned, we got 12 teams. Here's the setup for it, though. So, your top 4 teams will be your conference champions from the conferences we discussed. Big 10, SEC, Big 12, ACC. Does not matter the rank of those teams. If you win the conference, you get a bye. You get one of those top 4 seeds and you get a bye.
Well, the rank does matter, but it only matters for who is highest gets the highest one.
Yeah, the highest 4. Who's in that top 4, I guess.
Yeah.
Out of the conference champions. So then you have your 5 through 12 teams. So your 5 will play your 12, your 6 will play your 11, your 7 will play your 10, and your 8 will play your 9. Out of those winners, the 1 seed plays the 8-9 winner. 2 seed plays the 7-10 winner. 3 seed plays the 6-11 winner, and your 4 seed plays your 5-12 winner. Then after that, and by the way, also those 5 through 12 games, that is a home and home game. So like that is an actual home game for the 5 through 8 seeds. And then after that is when you'll start seeing your New Year's 6 bowls and then whoever hosts the semifinals and then national championship game. Where's the national championship game at this year? No, last year it was in
Oh no, I'll look it up.
Yeah, last year it was in Houston. So yeah, you gotta see where it's at this year. But yeah, so that is the format, and I think that is really interesting how they set that up. So to where you do have it, and I guess they really didn't have no choice but to set it up to where the top 4 teams would get a bye. But where's it at?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, wow. All right, so it's in Atlanta.
Home games, baby.
And yeah, I mean, I think this is a really good setup here, and they're putting value now into those conference championships. If you win it, you get a bye, and then you have at-large teams, and you're getting one of your group of 5 teams in there. So I mean, I think it's a long time coming. It's about damn time, and it's crazy how they just accelerated that process, because not too long ago we were talking about should they go to 8, and I guess they just said, nah, this money coming in, we're going to 12.
I mean, and you know what? Before NIL, I would agree with 8. After NIL, 12.
Cash it in, right?
Cash it in.
Yeah.
And everybody's about the money now, right? Yeah. And that's now made obvious. It is about the money. And as long as we're all about the money, what can I say? 12. Hell, I'll go 24 if you want to.
We turned into March Madness.
Just take the trophies. Why not? As long as the check cashes.
Well, so Patrick, so before we head on out, did you have anything else to add on this format?
No, I mean I like the 12. I like the 12 team thing. And one of the things that's my favorite part about it is that there is now a huge emphasis on conference champions. I love that part because they get a bye week. And I mean, so like even if you're, so let's say the ACC conference champion is ranked 8th, right? They're 4th. Yep. They are 4th and they get a bye. Good for them. I love it. I love the fact that they're putting an emphasis on conference championships because that has been a long time coming. They've needed to do that for years. And I mean, I know me and you said it for forever. But you know, now they're finally starting to do that. I'm good with it. I like it. Let's do it. Let's cash in the money. I wish I was getting part of it, but hey.
I hear that, man. Well, Patrick, before we head on out, what is going on with Pro Epic?
Oh man, it has been a couple of weeks for that. We are going to do a football show. That is where we're waiting for the equipment to come in. Once the equipment comes in, we're going to do a football show. So it's going to be a flag football. And then that's the only show that I have coming up, minus the water basketball that we're going to do when you come down. So,
yes, sir. And look for, on top of that, or along with the show for Bro Epic, look for the live show to come from down in Florida. So I'm going to be down in Patrick's neck of the woods.
Right,
and it's also during that week of the Georgia-Alabama game in Tuscaloosa. So it'll be after that game.
And Texas's first SEC game.
Yes, we played Mississippi State. So yeah. So great times to look ahead to. Oh, and for a breath of fresh air, as y'all saw with yesterday's shorty, the shorties are coming back, and I know you had talked to me about doing one, so I know you'll get one in there soon. Yep. And look for us on the podcast forums too. So
I think that's happening tomorrow, right?
Yes. Yeah, there it is. All right, man. So with all that, y'all, that is what we are breathing on for this show. Y'all make sure y'all visit the Breath of Fresh Air YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button, and follow the Breath of Fresh Air Facebook page. Until next time, y'all, we hope you enjoyed this preview of the college football season and enjoy the games. And you also have Labor Day weekend coming up. So enjoy the weekend if we don't talk again beforehand. And take care of each other. And football's back. We're excited, and I'm sure y'all are too. So thanks for tuning in, and we will talk soon. Take care.